most particularly from his spiritual master, Devamrita Swami, who's really the leader in the world for reaching out to people from all different places. Just going anywhere and everywhere and noting that living entities are hungry for Krishna consciousness. If you create a habitat where somebody can survive, then they'll be able to move forward. In California, where I live near the coast, there's a place that I hike sometimes, and the government local state government had noted that the ecology was out of balance, and there's a particular species of animal, a frog, that had almost gone extinct because of the lack of habitat. And that frog was called the red leg frog. So to bring back the red leg frog, they needed to redo the habitat. And so and I noticed this as I would hike there, they invested a lot into recreating these little ponds and the same kind of flora and fauna that go around the ponds that accommodate the red leg frog. And over several years, that species who had almost become extinct, the red leg frog, came back to life and thrived again because they had a place where they could survive. So every one of us needs an environment in which we can reach our full potential. And it's different for everyone. Not everyone likes the same environment. So what you've done here, Shastri Prabhu, is such an accommodating environment. I like the colors and just the openness of the place and everything about it. There's a lot of light in here coming through. It's a very nice feng shui, don't you think? It's a good flow.
Do you need more here? I turn on the cooler, is it okay?
No, I'm fine. I feel really good here. But best of all is all of you, because I feel your heart and soul, and it's because you're in a welcoming environment, and anybody who's brought into an environment where real love can be exchanged flourishes as a human being. When we're separated from one another, either physically or emotionally, because of losing sight of the purpose of life and how to treat others with respect because we've forgotten the spiritual principle, then there's a degradation of the quality of life. No matter how beautiful the infrastructure is, we see in many downtown areas that the infrastructure is quite developed. However, I also noticed that because everything's for profit and only people who are there to buy things are welcome, everybody else can go to hell. That's the idea. Because of that, there's a very stark environment, even amidst the so-called opulence. And that's true anywhere in this universe, that wherever there's a profit motive, that is, one person wants to exploit another, or one living entity wants to exploit another, then there's this fear factor that comes. Everyone's afraid for his or her life. But Krishna consciousness really means remembering that we are eternal spiritual souls and that we have a relationship with Krishna, and we then by natural arrangement have a relationship with one another. And when we purposely develop an environment where everyone can express that, then everyone becomes happy. That's natural. And when you're happy, you want to share it. If you can remember the last time that you were in a happy, very happy position, you felt joyful, you'll probably also remember that you thought, let me call somebody, I have to tell them. Have you ever noticed that? Mm-hmm. Maybe you've achieved something, or something went in your favor that you weren't expecting to. You had some windfall, a largesse came into your life. And I was like, I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to tell Steve's got to hear about this, right? Because joy always wants to share itself. It overflows when you're happy. And that's why people dance in the spiritual world. Not because they're being paid to dance. It's because they're happy. You dance when you're happy. And the reason that devotees go here, there, and everywhere, like knocking on people's doors or go to the park and set up tables, it's because they're happy and they just want to share it with other people. And very fortunately, those who are in Krishna consciousness have a means to share that because it's codified. It means there's actually a process for happiness. Just like I had a friend who made excellent cakes and pies. And then, people wondered, well, how does she make such great cakes and pies? And she said, well, it's not a mystery, it's a recipe. And if you follow the same recipe, if you learn from that person how to make great cakes and pies, and you follow what they put in and the time they put it in and so forth, then you can also do the same thing. And that's valuable because we can do something for other people and then they'll go back to their natural ways. Everyone has a default mode in life because we get programmed by our association to act in a certain way. But when we're given an opportunity to reprogram ourselves so that we can be self-determining, we can actually do good for ourselves because we know how to do good for ourselves. That's real kindness, to give people that opportunity. So what you all do here, by helping yourselves in this environment and then distributing it to other people, giving them the codes for success. Success is something that can be codified. There's a recipe for it. There's a recipe for happiness. If you don't have, for instance, there's a plan for everything in this world, isn't there? If you don't have wealth, then what would you do? Get a wealth plan. If you don't have health, you get a plan for being healthy. If you don't have education, you get an education plan. What other kind of plans are there? If you don't have, if you don't have travel plans, make a plan to travel.
Fitness plan.
Yeah, fitness plan. You can make a plan to be fit. It's not a mystery, it's a science. You can go anywhere on YouTube nowadays, say, just type in, how can I be healthy? They'll say, get enough sleep, exercise every day, have a good diet, and have a good outlook on life, and you'll become healthy, right? And if you can't, then you gotta get a can plan. And if you want to be spiritual, you got to have a spiritual plan. And really, it's a non-sectarian offering for the whole world that Lord Chaitanya gave. He said, yeah, if you get a spiritual plan, it'll include the diet, the exercise, everything will be there complete. And it'll go to the very root of the cause of happiness, which is to bring out the natural feeling of the soul, which gets obscured because of other interests in life. The reason I'm not happy is because I have lower interest and I get absorbed in things that aren't on the plan. So what you're doing here by not only distributing the plan, but also creating a habitat and a place where we can all come and feel an environment in which we see for ourselves or feel for ourselves that we're touching the higher limits of our potential. We start to realize it for ourselves. It's the greatest occupation. And to do it as a family man, to show that, like, wow, this is the best livelihood. Just teach Krishna consciousness. I think it's a really nice program here. I like Stone Mountain a lot. And the name Shastra Crit is practically a brand anywhere in the world. So. Shastra Crit, yeah, we know that brand. It stands for something. It's good to stand for something. So good for you. for how you're doing this. It's enthusiastic, it's bright, it's very transparently spiritual, and it's really beautiful. And thank all of you for being part of it, for coming together and giving your hearts and souls. You're rare souls. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that out of millions of people, there's just a handful that get serious about coming to their highest potential in life. And out of those, the ones that make vows and come close and then actually really start to understand that there's specificity in the philosophy of God. It's not something that's ineffable, means you can't explain it. You can, because God's a person and there's a source to everything. There's a source of everything, and we're part of that. So, I love your place, love all of you, love Shastra Krit, and your little girl speaks for your parenthood. I can speak because she's not in here, but she's extremely bright and ebullient. So, bravo, Hare Krishna. That was a very long counter introduction. How much time may we have?
Whatever.
I have to ask Balaram. He gives me very straight answers.
I would say about 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay. Could we have some questions?
Yes.
Because that way I get to know the devotees. If you have questions, they're hard sometimes unless that you're already ready for them. Or if you just want to ask me any question about myself or about Krishna consciousness, that way I'll get to know you by your questions. Yes.
Great.
I know you.
Thank you so much
Okay.
again for being here. I actually, I kept hearing about you. I've been practicing now for almost 4 years. I would look on YouTube a lot, and sometimes your YouTube videos will pop up. It's so much that I'm like trying to watch and get into, and so I didn't actually click on your classes. But when I found out that you were coming, Shastra Krit, he kept mentioning your name, and I'm like trying to put a name with a face, and I just couldn't. And then he said, "Oh, he's the one from Silicon Valley." I said, "Oh, I know exactly who he is." So even though I didn't watch your class, I knew who you were just because it's always popping up in my phone. So I wanted to watch some of your classes before you came, so I could, just get to know you a little bit before you got here. So I watched a video that you did about 6 years ago in Silicon Valley on determination. And it was an awesome class. It was an extensive class. And I just wanted to know, I wanted to ask you if you can speak to us about determination and for us who are striving to be serious, striving to be committed, just striving to just stay the test of time, stay in the walk, stay the path. Could you just speak a little bit, words of encouragement to us about that?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, thanks for such a nice question. In that it's one I can answer to some extent. So let's look at the word first. Oftentimes it's helpful to define terms. Determination. So the word determination has the word terminus in it, which is cognate with terminal. Terminal, like a bus terminal, means the end where you get off. So, and term, how long is your term? That's also in the word terminus. So determination means that you understand that there's a goal. So the word devotee actually means one who keeps vows. It comes from Latin, devoto, and vote. The word vote means that, I'm voting for this, I believe in this. And the word vow comes from comes from Sanskrit also. So they all come from Sanskrit, from the word vrat, which means to take up a vow to go in a certain direction. Because our mind will pull us in every other direction if we don't have a clear direction. Like in Alice in Wonderland, if you've ever seen that, there's a phrase, and that is that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And most people do that. That's called wandering. Wandering means you're aimless, or your aims are not that clear, so you can be pulled in any direction at any time. Krishna mentions it in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, Vyavasayatmika buddhire keha kurunandana bahushakahyanantascha buddheyo vyavasayinam. Someone who is avasayinam, vyavasayinam means that they're not determined because they don't know where they're going. And he said somebody who knows what the goal in life is, and that is they're going somewhere and they know what it is. They may not be there yet, but they know where they're supposed to go. He says, Vyavasayatmika buddhir, their intelligence is fixed because they know that's where I want to be. So it's important to be determined. You have to be clear on what the goal is and what the result is. For instance, if someone were to take up exercise as an example, we're just talking about that, why would you do that? Well, you might get a clear understanding that you'll feel better, you'll live longer, and you'll feel better about your life and so forth. When you have that in your mind, then the austerity of waking up an hour earlier every day so that you can go and exercise may seem reasonable, may appeal to your intelligence. And because you have a clear idea what the terminus is, what the end result is going to be, and what you're looking to do, then you can do it. So one of the important aspects of any discipline is to be clear on the goal. So another word for devotee is sadhu. So a sadhu is one who has sadhana. It's all from the same word. And the sadhana is meant to take you to a particular goal called the sadhya. So these are three words: sadhu, sadhana, and sadhya. And a devotee is clear that there's a goal, and then there are stages that you'll notice along the way, signposts that indicate how far you are along to reach the goal. Now, if I asked you to do as many push-ups as you can right now, don't stop. You might look up, it's like, is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? And then you might stop way earlier than what you could actually do. But he said, do 5. And it's like, okay, I'll do 5. You stop at 3. It's like, I'll do 2 more in a minute. You're coming to a terminus, to a certain point. So in that sense, the word determination means you're clear on the goal, and therefore, whether you're good or bad at it, you're going to stick to it because you're going to go to the goal. And that is very helpful. And one of the other aspects of determination that I think I spoke about in that presentation is that we should not depend on luck. Luck means that it's outside of our own power to move forward, but we should take steps based on the teaching of the Shastra and follow it, knowing, just as we might know when we go to a doctor who's well vetted, that if we take the medicine that the doctor gives us, everybody says, I took it, I got better. You notice that the doctor has a diploma. Doctor didn't, you asked some doctor, well, before the surgery, where did you get your degree? He said, well, not really a degree. I saw it on YouTube how to do this. You'd flee that place. But if you have an idea that this person is well studied, and has done it before and so forth, then you might take the medicine. And even if you don't notice the effect in the first 3 days, you still have this sense of determination to keep taking the medicine, because the doctor said take it 10 days, don't stop. And you'd have faith because, this authority told me. And so it's not just luck that we move forward, but it's actually taking an authoritative instruction from somebody we trust, and then at that point you trust the medicine. And no matter how you feel, you still trust the medicine because you trust the doctor, and then you keep taking it. And this would be symptomatic of somebody who has determination. Somebody may have ups and downs, they may still even look like they're sick, but they're taking the medicine. So someone may be practicing spiritual life and may not be perfect yet. And that can be really discouraging because nothing succeeds like success. And if you don't have some success, then you might wonder, can I keep going? But if you trust in the beginning that other people have been cured and that there's an expert doctor in the house and that doctor has given good medicine, I'm going to trust the medicine and I'm going to keep taking it. So then somebody might observe, oh, you have determination. You keep taking it even though you're not better yet. That's a kind of determination. So the Bhagavatam says that we should satisfy our own intelligence first. Krishna says it also in the Gita. Before you have a taste, before you even feel yourself fully improved, use your intelligence. It comes from God. Evam buddhi param buddhvasam stabhyatmana matmana bahushat. I'm sorry. That he says that in the beginning you should use your intelligence to keep your determination, because by intelligence you can understand that I'm in a precarious situation and I should do something about it. And the intelligence, at first it's doubtful, so you have to hear over a long period of time from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from others who have some realization in Krishna consciousness, to satisfy your intelligence that I went to the right doctor. That's the purpose of doubting, actually. Doubting is part of the intelligence, Kapila Dev says. It's an important function of the intelligence. You have to doubt your way to find the right authority. And once you find the right authority, you've used your doubting facility to come to a place where now you can be very determined, because I'm now going to settle on this. I've satisfied my God-given intelligence, so I'm going to stick to the path. Evam buddhi param buddhvasam stabhyatmanama. He says to Arjuna, then, satisfy your intelligence and then stand up and fight. Do your duty now. Warriors have to be very determined because they're going to go into battle, right? So do we. We're going into battle every day, every minute, because our senses are suggesting other ideas. Yeah, how about this? How about that? And it's like, no, I have my clear goal. I'm following my clear authority, and I'm going to stick to this no matter what other symptoms are coming up and what other enticements happen to rise in my life. It's one of the ways of determination, being very clear on the goal and using your God-given intelligence to do that.
One more quick question.
Yeah.
So in using our Hare Krishna. So in using our intelligence, like one of the things I've been working on lately is, along with my chanting, is having full faith in the holy name. Like having faith that me chanting Hare Krishna is going to help whatever problem it is that I have. How can I strengthen that?
Well, first of all, I like the way you framed it, because it actually is the very thing you said comes from a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Suridhanishchoy Krishna Bhakti Kola Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. And so this is the definition of faith. So Shraddha, first of all, the word we have in English, faith, it comes from this word Shraddha. You're going to like the word. Do you know about it?
Yeah.
Shrad means the heart. And da, which is the second part of the word, is an active verb. It means where you place something. Literally, the word shraddha, which we call faith, means where you place your heart. What are you putting your heart into? Actually, modern research shows that we have more neuroreceptors in the heart region than we do even in the brain. And they also suggest in this research, this is from a devotee who's a doctor, an MD. He works in heart research, and I was interviewing him for a book I'm writing, and he gave me a lot of really interesting points. One of them was that we determine things in our heart before they actually get vetted by the brain. You know, we decide here, and then the brain goes, okay, yeah, I can reconcile that. But we feel it here. That's Shraddha. Everyone's putting their heart into something. And Krishna says it in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We're made of that faith. And he said the reason that faith is of different kinds is because of our association with the three modalities. Everyone has some kind of mode they're in. And when we associate with them, then we pick up that mode ourselves, and it goes right to the heart. And it creates our state of heart, so that's our Shraddha. If you associate with people who are fully dedicated to saving the border collie kind of dog, I've seen the bumper sticker, Save the Border Collie, then you may also become an advocate after some time. Like, I live in the house where people save border collies, that's what I'm going to do. So by association, you know, we get that. And then the verse says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kari Suridhanishchoy Krishna Bhakti Kola. What you're putting your heart into is the idea that by doing Krishna Bhakti, Sarva Karma Krita, which means all the things I'm supposed to do get done properly when I do bhakti. And the devotee thinks, if I do, the more I serve Krishna, then the more naturally everything else is taken care of organically. So it's exactly what you said. And the question of how you get more is answered in the Shastra also. And that's by association. It's the prime cause for faith. Just as I have faith in the border collie, in my cause. It's my number one cause. Whatever everybody says, the main thing in life, to save the border collie. Why? Because that's the association I have. So the more you associate with people who have this Shraddha that by doing Krishna Bhakti, my life is perfect, then the more you'll have that. Because as Krishna says also in the Gita, it says, Purusha prakritisto hi bhukte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasat yoni janmasu. Karanam guna sangasya, the cause for whatever condition you're in now has been your association. Like, look at yourself. You can do a self-analysis. You can look at, what type of person am I? A, B, C. I don't know how many different parts there are. There's that other. There are many different sciences for finding a personality type. And there are personality types that you can actually identify because the modes of nature have combinations and permutations that tend to form algorithms, and you can kind of see like, oh, yeah, this person's in the mode of passion. And you can look at yourself, say, what condition am I in now? Like, well, yeah, I got a little bit of goodness, a lot of ignorance, this, that. And you said, where did it come from? Association. So it's really what's called the Janma Mool, or the root cause of who we are and how much faith we have. It's who you're associating with. And we really mostly associate by hearing. It's who you're tuned into. When you listen, then you'll start to develop faith in things. Like I have a handyman who comes to my house all the time, because houses need constant fixing, especially mine. And he's a really interesting guy. He's a fantastic handyman. He's like, he's a perfectionist, you know, so he'll like agonize, oh, that's not straight enough, like, that's my guy. But I know that, like, I can tell by talking to him, and he loves to talk, so I try not to go near him, because I think but, you know, he'll start talking things, and I go, I know where that came from. He's listening to the radio. I know which station he probably listens to, because it's like it's coming out in a certain way. It's like, oh, the world shouldn't have done this, people should have done that, and that's like, yeah, what are you listening to? I know that algorithm. It's the same. You know, if you tune into this, then that's what you're going to say. That's what's going to be in your heart. So the prime cause for advancement in anything is to listen. That's why there are universities. Why are they there? People go, they put you in a little bunk bed, you know, so you can come to one place. They give you like a 2x2 room and a bunk bed, and then they say you come and listen for 4, 6, 8 years. Just sit there, listen to somebody who's already studied this, and it's amazing. As a human, you just sit there and listen, and you come out and it's like, yeah, I know how to do stuff, right? And people pay you hopefully like $500,000 for a year for what you know, from just sitting there and listening. So if you want to become a pure devotee, then Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravan. There's a paragraph. Prabhupada wrote this paragraph. He writes it in the Bhagavad Gita in a purport, and the most commentated upon purport that he verse that he ever gave. It's in the first verse of the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada commented on that verse more than any other verse. And in the purport, he gives a paragraph in Sanskrit, which he also quoted on the Jaladuta on his way to America, saying how he was going to conquer the world. Can you imagine that? You have no resources, you're on a boat that you had to beg passage for, and you have the formula how you're going to conquer the world. He had that. You want to hear the paragraph?
Yes.
Shru Shru Shro Shradhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyam Takstohi Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kamalubadayaschaye Cheta ite anavidam stitam satve prasidati. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavat bhakti yogatha bhagavat tattva vijnana mukta sangha sajayate. Vidyate hriya grantis chityante sarva samshaya shyante chasya karmani drishta eva manishvare. So that what that says is what I just said. You're a product of what you hear. And if you tune your ears to hear about Krishna, then everything will take place. You listen to a person whose motive is only to serve Krishna. What you get is called saffron mercy particles. You see, Krishna has saffron on his lotus feet. And when a person who's pure means they only have one motive in life, that's to serve Krishna. Their sound vibration touches Krishna's lotus feet. It dislodges the saffron particles. The sound gets mixed with that. And when it hits your ear, it goes in your heart, and you feel different than you've ever felt before, because you feel like, I also want to just serve Krishna. I don't want to do anything else. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohi Suridans Joy. That's my thing in life. I serve Krishna. Everything else is taken care of. So that's the root cause. If you hear properly. And one day, when I was walking in my neighborhood, I like to make observations from my environment and try to relate them to Krishna. So I live near the San Francisco Bay. Not that near, but I'm in a suburb, and the bay, is about 20 minutes away. So in all the storm drains along the sidewalks, there's a placard in iron with a fish on it, and it says no dumping drains to bay. Because if you put anything that's caustic and it goes down into the drain, where does it end up? San Francisco Bay. And there are generations of different kinds of chemicals that have layered themselves in the bay since people very unwittingly or insensitively have poured things out and they just go there. So in a similar way, I was thinking about my ears and how they're like little storm drains. And if I was to ever get a tattoo, I would put one here and one here and say no dumping, drains to bay. Because whatever comes in here, it goes to the bay of my heart. And if I wonder, why am I like I'm like somebody says to me, you know, like, hey, how come you're like that? I'm not grouchy. I was like, why are you like that? Because something came in here, it's in here, and now I react with my heart, because that's who I am at the moment because of what I've taken in. So devotees are very specifically tuned in to Krishna Katha. They hear from pure devotees. And when you hear from pure devotees, then as the verses, the paragraph we just said, everything naturally takes place because Krishna is within the heart and he helps the person. And actually the word used there is vidhunoti. Vidhunoti is a name for Krishna. It means Krishna helps to sort out your life for you if you want him to. If you give him permission, he'll vidhunoti. Yeah, vidhonoti, right? Vidhunoti. So, I'll just tell you one other interesting thing. And then if you can stop me, I'd appreciate it. There's a machine for sorting out cotton, and it's called vidhunoti. So cotton, when you pick it off the vine, it has all kinds of impurities in it. It has seeds. It also has little shards of plant matter. They're kind of sharp, and they don't go well with the fluffy cotton that you're looking for. So what happens is they have these cords, and they pull them taut. And then they put the cotton on top of the cords, and then it's in kind of like a little cabin-like thing, and then they vibrate the cords. And because of the vibration of the cords, the impurities in the cotton dislodge, and they fall through the cracks onto the floor. On top, you have nice white fluffy cotton, and on the bottom, you have all the refuse that nobody wants. And so vidhunoti suhrit satam is in the verse, and suhrit means Krishna is there within the heart. He acts as the vidhunoti. So you have to vibrate the strings in your heart in the right way. If you take in the vibration of the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and you're listening to pure devotees, that vibration itself, it shakes loose all the stuff you don't want. It's like, I don't want to be like this. Why am I like this? Why am I doing this? I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it anyway. Don't you hate that? It's called cognitive dissonance. I'm thinking one thing's right and I can't do it. I do something else. So how do you overcome that? By taking help, the vidhunoti, that's bhakti, it's Krishna. And you take the vibration, it shakes, impurities come out, and you're left with a pure, fluffy, nice heart with no impurities left. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for coming and speaking to us today. I'm really close down the road, and whenever I come to Yummies for lunch, if Prabhu Shastri is not listening to Devamrita Swami, there's about a 98.5% chance that it's you he's listening to. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming here. My question is kind of two-part. Backs onto that because that kind of made me think of something, although that wasn't my question. But I do mental health counseling, and I do like 32 hours a week. And so I'm constantly hearing non-devotees, So my first thing is, and of course I get up early in the morning and do my rounds, and while I'm doing other things throughout the day, I'll have Prabhupada or Devamarita Swami, somebody going in the background. But after having all that associated, even though it's telehealth, how can I better balance that out? Because I feel like it's effective. I've gone down from 40 to 32 hours, but I feel like it's really affected me. And the other thing is pertaining to your class yesterday. How can I do these appointments? Give my time for Krishna. How can I pay? Just a practical application of even paying bills or living life in such a way that I'm not stealing from Krishna, but rather I'm using it for His service. Like for example, I want to buy another house and do like an Airbnb or something for relatives when they come in the area. But how can I do these things practically so that I'm not stealing from Krishna, and so that I can do them in His service?
Well, there's two questions there, and they're both really good ones. I'll try to be a little more succinct than usual because of the time factor. First is that I'll just give you an example of a really close friend of mine who's a devotee, a really good devotee. He joined the Christian Consciousness Movement in 1970, and he teaches to people all over the world. He's a very solid person in his practice. And he went into the medical profession. He decided at one point to truncate his education and just get to work so he ended up as a paramedic. And he ended up as part of the fire department because they merged the paramedics and the fire department in San Francisco, probably to save money. But it meant that he could get a good pension after 20 years if he was or 25, but I think he retired early because of a medical exemption. He hurt his back carrying people out of burning buildings and stuff like that. So he worked as a paramedic for 20 years, and he developed PTSD because it's a horrific occupation. He had to see people in gory situations every day, and it's also a constant reminder, just like on a battlefield. It is just like that death is right there with you. It's a reality, but it's a little unsettling when it's right in your face every day. And you can become traumatized. I mean, you know all this better than me. I'm just saying the summary of it. And he ended up being really overwhelmed by all that. And what he found was that the way he was able to overcome it, ultimately, was by, although he was chanting his rounds, he felt like he wasn't observing himself and going deeply into the japa. He felt like he was doing it superficially. So he started, for his own survival, mental health survival, to really go more deeply into the process of what is called swadhyaya, or self-observation, when he was chanting. So he developed a kind of way of, deeply observing that he was the witness of his body, his mind, and so forth, and then chanting with the deepest kind of concentration. And his realization was he had been chanting for many years, and it had not been very deep until he was challenged and then forced to become more self-observant. And what that helped him to do was, when various traumatic emotions would arise within him, he was able to distance himself from them, and actually, counterintuitively, he would embrace them first and then notice that he could also let them go. This obviously is kind of like what we call internal work. So when we do japa, of course, no one's ever prescribed specifically that you should do it in this specific way, but it is meant to be a very deep inner observation. We chant, and if you want to talk to him, you can. I mean, he's helped a lot of other people that I know who have had, similar situations. He's very, very well liked and respected amongst the devotees. He's a very centered person and very Krishna conscious. So I suggest you have a conversation with him and just ask him kind of what he went through, because it's very similar, the kind of thing that you're exposed to. And secondly, the practical aspect of life is that everyone has a quota. You need certain amenities to stay alive. Being without them can be trying, and it can also be more distracting. That is, if you don't have resources, you might be more distracted than if you have resources. And so, in the story in the Bhagavatam, the 8th canto of Gajendra, who's an elephant, he was strong on the land but weak in the water. And he was the king of all the animals in the forest. But when he got in the water, which he did one fine day, just to take the cool water on his head and push it onto, he blew it with his trunk, onto his family members so they could enjoy too. And then a crocodile grabbed onto his leg. And he fought that crocodile for 100 years and then realized that he couldn't get loose and that he was going to go down. So he prayed to God, please save me. And Krishna came and saved him. That's the whole story. But in that story is a specific point that I wanted to make about your second question, and that is that we have to live in a natural condition of life to perform Krishna consciousness. If you live in a way that's unnatural, then sooner or later you're going to feel so uncomfortable that you can't concentrate on your Krishna consciousness. And at different parts of our life, what's natural may change. When I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, I just slept on the bare floor. I didn't need anything else. And now I don't do as well sleeping on the bare floor. Because I'm older and I just, I can't sleep on a hard surface. But I was more happy sleeping on so someone might say, well, you should be renounced, sleep on the hard floor. If I'm renounced and sleep on the hard floor, I'll be sleepy all day because I didn't sleep at night, right? So it changes throughout our life what we need, what kind of facility we have to have. So the directive is that you should take what you need to live in a natural condition of life so that you can do Krishna consciousness. And there's a verse for it. It says, Kamasya nendriya pritir, labho jivete yavata, jivasya tattva jignasa, narto yash cheka karmabhi. Which means that you should eat to live, don't live to eat. In other words, we're not getting things just like to be foodies and enjoy life. We take food so that we can be strong, so that we can do our service and so forth. So if you need a house, and to get a house you have to have a business, be smart. Work smarter, not harder. I've always, I was a brahmachari for 13 years, and since then, now I'm 67, I've taken every advantage of whatever kind of wisdom there is financially. And I've done quite well. Just because I didn't see any point in living as a grahastha and being poor. So I researched it and I said, what do you have to do to have enough wealth so that you don't have to just struggle all the time? I studied it and I figured it out to, the best I could with whatever facility I have. And that's not illegal. That is commonsensical. So it's very commonsensical Krishna consciousness. It means, take what you need to live in a comfortable, natural condition of life so that you can do your service. You can live long and prosper. If you don't exercise, you live in a house, this body's a house. If you don't take care of it, it just falls apart prematurely. And if you're sick all the time, you can't do service. You can't get around. So someone say, well, why are you exercising? Why don't you just be spiritual? But we're a combination of matter and spirit, so you have to take care of the matter also, right? Because it doesn't hold itself together that well. You have to help it out. So you have a quota, and the quota is whatever you need to live in the natural condition of life so you can go on doing your service. Don't take more and don't take less. That's what the Shastra says. Krishna confirms that in the Gita. It says, Yukta haravi harasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodasya, yoga bhavati dukkha. He says, you should not eat more than you need or less than you need. You shouldn't sleep more than you need or less than you need, and you shouldn't recreate more than you need or less than you need. You have to recreate yourself so that you can show up for Shastrakrit Prabhu's programs. Does that help? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I am very new to this. I'm not at the level you all are at spiritually. It's only been like a week that I've been doing this journey. But I'm so grateful to you and everyone for your time and teaching me. So my challenge I'm having with myself is I'm holding on to a lot of suppressed anger and rage, like dangerous level. My father passed away, and it wasn't a very peaceful death, and it was kind of all I had. And you mentioned wealth. I work for the largest brokerage firm in the world. I was going to be a very successful woman, and I'm a black woman that got that opportunity. And the very day the director was supposed to give me my promotion to make over 6 figures, I got sick at the party at Morgan Stanley with COVID. And now I'm disabled to where I can't even read a book. I went from bringing in $20 million in 6 months. Not even licensed traders could do what I did. And I'm not what people would expect the person to have to do that. I was born in a very impoverished area. I don't talk the way other people talk, but people love my energy so much that they converted all of their assets. So now I'm so angry that all of my opportunity is getting taken, and every time I try to grow spiritually or physically or anything, some evil force keeps taking everything from me, and I can barely read the book. So I don't know how I'm supposed to learn everything I'm supposed to learn to heal if I can't even process what I'm reading because my neurological system is so damaged. Emory is trying to help me, but there is no cure for this diagnosis of I'm a COVID long hauler. I'm legally disabled now. I don't know what to do. And I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling suicidal. And I just want to go back to being happy and successful. I don't know how to get there if I can't read and process the information.
Yeah. Thank you for being so vulnerable and bringing it out. And my sincerest condolences for the passing of your dear father. And it's such a mysterious thing when something like COVID happens, and it's hard to tell what it is and how it's going to affect us, and when's it going to end, and all those things, and it puts us in a really scary situation.
Yes.
I think we can, to one degree or another, we can all relate to that, and if we can't, then someday we will, because we're all in the same boat ultimately.
Yes.
And then it's kind of, what is that boat? There's a mystery to life that we can't see in the moment, but if we have an idea of what our ultimate purpose in life is, kind of going back to what we were talking before about determination and how to overcome major obstacles, then whatever happens to us, there is a way of processing it. I'm not saying it happens immediately, because it's very difficult to handle the kinds of things you're talking about. Every one of them, any single one of those could be debilitating, what to speak of all of them happening at the same time as they're happening to you.
Yes.
But there is a way of processing them so that you come to not only higher ground, but also greater strength of conviction and clarity of thought. And oftentimes, it's the hardest times that we encounter that bring us to that position. it's something that there's a great teacher of Bhakti, her name was Kunti, and she talked about how when we're greatly challenged by the world, as she was, she had a traumatic life. A lot of things happened to her that just unspeakable. And she came to by processing it, she came to this idea that actually these circumstances that were most trying in my life brought me to the best of myself. As unless we're tested by that, like gold is tested by fire. It's a crucible. You put it in, and the hotter the fire, the more you extract the impurities from the gold. And in a similar way, we get tested in the world. And then it's a matter of how do I take it? There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that invites us, although I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just saying it's a way of processing, to keep asking, what's the lesson? What am I being taught here? Where is this leading me? The other side, that's the side that I naturally go to, is like, why me? Why is it happening to me? I was doing everything right, everything I was supposed to do, and I'm a good person, so why did it happen, right? That's a whirlpool that drags you down, and it does make you feel helpless. But the other side, there's some light, because you're saying, what's the lesson? What can I take out of this? And I'll just tell you a little vignette that I heard that was very interesting in this way. Do you remember Steve Jobs? And that's a ridiculous question. Yeah. So Steve Jobs gave a commencement address at Stanford. And one interesting he said on the side was, when he was a starving student, he said the only place he'd get something to eat was at the Hare Krishna temple. He said he walked a couple miles every day just to eat because they fed him. He said that in his life, the most valuable junctures were the hardest to face when he faced them. One of them was in business when he had developed the Apple Corporation, and he was at the top of the world. So he hired on that person's Scully as a CEO to run the company. And Scully conspired with others on the board and kicked Steve Jobs out of his own company. Do you know that history? Yeah. Steve Jobs started it in his father's garage. It was his idea, along with a few others like Stephen Wozniak, and they developed the whole corporation out of a garage, and it became this huge success. And he put his heart and soul into the whole thing. It was his baby. And then he got to the top of it, and then he was summarily kicked out of his own company by politics. And he said at first he thought, like, my life is over. This is like the worst thing that ever happened to me. And then he said, well, wait a minute. There was a moment of clarity, because that's what comes out of these kind of trying times. There was a moment of clarity where he said, well, why did I start the company in the first place? And why was I doing that? What did I want to get out of it? And then he remembered when he went to this kind of liberal arts college way up in Oregon. He said the first reason I got into this whole thing in the first place was creative. He wanted to create a machine that could do fonts, because machines back then, they only did like one thing, like a typewriter. He said, I want to create like a way to make creative fonts and things like that. So one thing led to another, and he started developing, the computer systems that he did, the Apple. And then when he got back to that root cause of why he wanted to do it in the first place, then his creativity, he said, now I'm free to create. I'm already kicked out, got nothing to lose. Let me start with what brought me in the first place. Then he created Pixar. And the first company he made was Next, and then he made Pixar. They were way bigger than Apple. He was way more successful because he was not afraid to lose and remembered what his purpose was. So that's what the Shastra, these ancient wisdom literatures say is, like, don't just write these off as random. Take it that there's a lesson that's coming. And he said, and then one of the other points in his life was when he got this diagnosis that he was ill and there was no cure for it. And that they couldn't stop. They said, get your affairs in order. And when you stop at the pharmacy, don't get the large tube of toothpaste because there'll be a lot left over. Basically, they said you only have a month to live. And he lived with that diagnosis for 3 days until they came back and said, you know, actually, it's a little different pathology than we thought. We can actually cure this, or we can manage it for a long period of time. And he lived for much more than a decade after that. But having seen those 3 days where my life's over now, he said the next 10 years were way more fruitful for him in his relationships and his business and everything else in his life because he had already seen what it feels like. I'm leaving. I have a month left. And he counted as his blessings in life getting kicked out of his company and being misdiagnosed that he's going to die in 1 month. And he said that's what has shaped me and brought me to my highest potential. So it's hard. And it's not like we just write it off philosophically, say, yeah, you'll be all right. When you're in the moment and you're in that, you're suffering. It's really hard.
It's not
It
just
hurts.
my heart rate randomly goes to 130. When my heart is functioning as if it's trying to have a heart attack 24/7. That's how my dad died from a non-COVID heart attack.
I'm sorry.
And it's breaking my heart that I've been of service to millions of people around the world that are suffering. And I can't help people. My goal is to help people that are suffering like me. So I am going to contact the CEO of the ADA and ask her if I can be of service to her. And my prayer, with the help of Christian, of course, is that I can be of service to other people that are disabled and experiencing these same neurological, psychiatric, cardiovascular side effects of COVID, so that they can, you know, inspire and help other people to not give up. So that's what I'm praying with
What is your
Christian.
name?
Veronica.
Veronica, you have all the right instincts.
Okay.
Totally spiritual instincts. Because one of the ways to come out of the grief of these crushing experiences in life is to think how to serve others.
Okay.
In fact, Dale Carnegie wrote a book. You might want to check it out. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Mm.
I've read it a couple times in very intense times of my life when I just have crushing responsibilities and something goes so far awry, I think, like, that's it, I'm finished, you know, this is never going to get resolved. And I read that book, it's one of the points he makes in there. He has real life experience of people who have been overwhelmed by things, and then they actually, they find a way out of it. And one of the ways he says is to think about how to do good for others.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for having my weekly diatribe.
Should we conclude here, or you wanted to do some kirtan? Or
Yes, I'll do a very short kirtan because we're supposed to go to our next destination.
Yes, bro. So I just wanted to say thank you to you. Like Josh was saying, it's always I'm listening to you or catching up what I missed, and it's a lot to catch up like you, because it's hard to catch up with you. You're like, and also like our team, Prabhu's mercy, like his hard work and overspill. Like we get books also from Prabhu's project to be able to be generous on the streets and not constricting. And many of the development here happened from listening to his teachings. Like Mukhya, is that what you teach?
Mukhya Prasada.
Mukhya Prasada. It's one of the symptoms of advanced devotee is that merciful vibrations emanate from them, and they always show up. They're like regulated. So listening to Prabhu, he always encourages. So whatever we're able to do here is from listening to him, and we don't do a good job but trying to implement. So like you are our Siksha Guru, and we're really grateful for all you're doing to the whole world. You don't think just in terms of your mutt, but you're carrying all of ISKCON, and you're inspiring especially all the book distributors and teaching us how to think big, be generous, and cultivate people, encourage them, and it's just super grateful and really in awe that you're actually here and I'm seeing you. Not hit me yet. So just thank you for coming, and really like you don't have to come with all your duties around the world, but to show love to Balaram, Vrinda and us, you come. So we just beyond grateful.
Yes, thank you.
No place I'd rather be with the Prabhus here in the book distribution capital of the world. Hare Krishna.
Just every class, it's everything that comes out of your mouth is just such an amazing message, and it's full of humor and intelligent and well researched and realized, and it's so much nectar. So thank you both.
This is like a therapy couch. I can do it. I know I can do it. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shantabhari Paschatya Nishatari Jaya much, everyone. It's been a heart-touching experience being here, truly, truly. And you're doing the right thing for yourself, for the world. Please just steadily apply the principles of Krishna consciousness and try to be merciful to others. And thank you, Shastrakrit Prabhu, for holding space for this beautiful community. And we pray to Srila Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to shower you with their mercy, bring you all the resources that you need to fulfill your vision for an ever-expanding community of beautiful devotees that are engaged in pure devotional service. Om Tat Sat.
Kartals on auction. Sorry, one last announcement. We have nice lunch prepared for you all. I just wanted to show Prabhu one little project, housing project we're doing. You're welcome to follow along. But when Prabhu, we serve lunch, we don't need help. And my wife and I, we want to serve him and also give him the space where he can take prasadam. But we would like to serve all of you wonderful devotees here. So if you want to